The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is a ForceCenter podcast feed. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we're here to take a look at breaking news from a long time ago. It's our Star Wars news show, and we have some things to get to, my friends, including some updated information on Star Wars Celebration guests, looking at Daisy Ridley and some of her recent comments, open world Star Wars video games, all that and more coming your way right here. But today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. A little bit later, as always, our ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should try out on us. And Joseph, you made a great point last week. Like, if you're looking for ways to help the show, this is one of those ways. Get a free audiobook, try it out, and it does really actually help keep the lights on, as they say. So there you go. But Joseph, that's not the only thing going on. We still have an Ask, and we had a lot of fun on YouTube on Friday. And what's going on over there on YouTube?
Yeah, a lot of YouTube stuff going on. We had a great Q&A, as Ken just said. We are going to be debuting our new show of figure fights, where two Star Wars action figures have a fight. Not physically, don't want to wound the figures, but in our imaginations, the figures have a fight. And it's a fun, fast show that's going to be debuting on February 2nd. So we got more things coming on YouTube, so we're trying to get more friends there. We have been building to 7,000 subscribers, and we are so close. We are like mountain climbers, and we can see the peak. It's almost there, but we're exhausted, clinging to the side of the mountain. The wind is blowing. Help us. Help us. We're very close to 7,000, so anything you can do to help us get us there, thank you very much.
Including, sign up for 100 fake accounts. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I shouldn't say anything you can do these days.
Yeah.
I think I have like 6 YouTube accounts. I got to make sure all of them are subscribed to ForceCenter. But this is how you build. And this is how you get there. We're having a lot of fun over on YouTube. Can't wait for February 2nd, 10 a.m. Pacific. It's going to be a live premiere, which means if possible, we'll be hanging out with you. We'll see where life goes. But you guys can check on the show as it drops live. So there you go. All right. We're going to catch up with Star Wars and Life Adventures. I almost got so excited, I almost skipped to the news. I got to follow my own format here. This is where we catch up, not just with each other, but with all of you, and talk about how Star Wars found us in the real world. Jen, how did that go for you?
It was pretty chill this past week in terms of Star Wars. I did stumble upon my old Star Wars Micro Machine collection. For a while, I had tried to have an Etsy shop because I really wanted to sell like Star Wars jewelry just because I enjoyed making it. And then I had so many, I was like, well, I might as well just sell these. And I had those little micro heads, and I ended up building a really large collection, and then I closed my shop. And so now I have like Bib Fortuna. I have Figure and Dan. I have tons of Jawas. I have a Jabba head, Darth Vader. I mean, it just was like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all these? I still don't know what I'm going to do with all of them, but they're really cool. And the way that I had them in my jewelry was like I created them almost like a locket. Because when you open up the micro head, it's a tiny little figure, like the Darth Vader one. It's a tiny little Darth Vader inside and a tiny Emperor Palpatine in the background.
Inside the large Vader head.
Yeah, and they're small. I mean, you could fit it in your pocket. They're so cute.
What era was that? I'm trying to remember when those came out.
90s. They were in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think 97. You can still get them on eBay, or you can get them from me because I have so many. But how many people want a Bib Fortuna locket necklace? Not a lot. Very specific crowd.
I really like the big heads with the little version of yourself. It's like, what is this person thinking about? Oh, themselves. I see.
Right. Oh, yeah. So that was my discovery for the week.
Yeah, I love that memory lane of old toys that you still have. And, that comes in. What do we do with them? Oh, look, I just found a picture. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, those are great. I remember those. Those are wonderful. Good stuff. Old toys, Star Wars and eBay, dangerous combination. Joseph, how did everything go for you, sir?
This was a good busy week. I think Star Wars found me in the probably a similar way that it found you, Ken. We were sharing on our YouTube Q&A that Gentle Giant has kindly sent us some Star Wars collectibles. They say very clearly on the package, this is not a toy. This is an adult collectible. I think the toy thing is to clarify so children don't think the statues move. Anyway, so we opened a couple. They got a great Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Wars style bust with his classic lightsaber fighting pose. But I got the restored Emperor Palpatine bust. And he's got he's kind of his eyes are kind of rolling up in his head a little bit. He must be looking up to the skies. His little hands are up. They're all ashy and weird. And I thought that this would be definitely only bring this one out when my wife isn't home, because it's like maybe a little too creepy to just have, on the bookcases, but I was showing it to her and I was opening it and she's like, no, this is fine. This is great. So all weekend I've been trying putting Palpatine different places, and then I forget he's there. So like 9 times this weekend, I'm just going through my home and like, hey, who's staring at me? I got Palpatine's staring at me from around different things and on top of different shelves. So that's been my Star Wars adventure, being stared at by Palpatine.
Then by the same token, I've been stared at by Grogu for the last 3-4 days. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank the fine folks at Gentle Giant, specifically Zach over there, for setting us up with some figures. I almost said toys. Just habit from 83 on. But some wonderful figures that I just have been impressed with. And yes, I did. We're going to do some individual reviews of the items. Look for those as YouTube shorts soon here, the ForceCenter channel, YouTube channel. But by Grogu, I just am blown away by the detail on it, and really, truly am. And so I've just been picking up and feeling the collar around this robe as if it's relaxing. And it's a petting Grogu, which he'd probably bite my finger off if he did. So that, and then the Leia figures, the other one I have, the Milestones Leia figure, and I took some photos of it. And I studied photography about a year. I had developed film in the old dark room there, that era. So I don't have a great eye, but I do love just taking photos. And man, the Leia figure, when you take the photo on portrait mode on your phone, you might as well put it on screen in a film. It's so good. So I think I've been having, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it was fun on the live show. But I've been kind of, down and out in life lately. I'll admit it. It's been kind of a dark couple weeks. Or don't we all go through that? And there's a little joy when you just have a little piece of Star Wars on your shelf, and you can look at it and it transports you away. And I think that's why we keep coming back to that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Even creepy old Palpatine. It's giving me joy. He brings a smile.
He does in a weird way. He does. Just like I'll sometimes even look at those menacing wampas and go like, oh yeah, a nice little wampa.
So now I'm gonna imagine I can open them up and there's a bunch of little Palpatines inside, like that Darth Vader head Jennifer was talking about.
Yes.
Dan, I can't. I just did a Google search on those. I got to stay away from eBay. I've been poking on eBay, and I don't do that often. It's been a few years, and I was, looking up prices and some big ticket items. Even like, should I sell one or buy one? And it's always your needle always goes to buy. You just can't do it. So there you go. Or just sell. Jed's going to drive around in a Volkswagen van to sell micro machines from the van. There you go.
I'll give them away. I have so many. Embarrassment of micro machine riches.
There you go. All right, we're gonna.
No, yeah. I looked one up. I can't. Anyways,
yeah, right.
Ignore me. Move on.
Okay.
See? Move along now. Move along. All right, let's get to Star Wars news. And we have, late breaking news in terms of fun Star Wars celebration stuff. 2023 right around the corner. Oh my gosh! Airline tickets purchased. Looking at those Eurostar train tickets to get around. Oh, we are already there, essentially. And of course, guests are going to be announced, and these are the guests who will be available. Photo opportunities is what we'll call them here, and some big ticket items here in the guest realm. Hayden Christensen and Bo-Katan herself, Katie Sackhoff will be there, and also James Arnold Taylor, Mads Mikkelsen, and Dennis Lawson. Which I love that, because there's just always been this air of, does Dennis even like Star Wars? Even after showing up in Rise of Skywalker, does Dennis even like Star Wars? But he's going to be there, and that's fun. And in our Discord, which you can get through our Patreon page, a lot of people, ForceCenter friends, this is their first time going to a Star Wars celebration or maybe even a convention of any sort on this kind of level. And there's been a couple questions and interest in these photos popping up. And these were run by the company's official picks that runs this inside the convention. So it's a little separate from, say, ReadPop or any of the people who run these conventions. And there are a lot of questions. And Joseph, I hate to throw this at you here, but you had a wonderful photo at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim with Ian McDiarmid. And there was it was a great experience. You saved up your allowance. It was something you wanted to do. How did that go for you? And you have any quick hit advice for those asking?
Yeah, so I think there's the photos and then there is the autographs. And I have not done the autographs, so I don't know exactly how that's run. But if it's similar to the photos, it is run like a incredibly well-oiled military machine. This group official picks, this is what they do, and they really have their system down. So unless they've changed anything, the experience for me was when you sign up for it, you sign up for a person in a block of time to report to the picture area. And then almost like you're boarding a plane, they'll have you be like, line up here. If you're group X for Ian McDiarmid, line up here and get in line. And then you get in line. And now I think what differs from the actors, I'll start with what's the same. The company official picks is trying to get people through the photos as fast as humanly possible. So just be emotionally ready for that. And then I think what differs with the actors, Ian McDiarmid was very charming, very friendly, made sure to say hello and thank you and make eye contact with everyone. But there was no discussion about what's your name, what kind of pose would you like to do. I think there were valid COVID and respiratory concerns, so there was a little bit of that. Not a little bit. There was a plastic screen, period. Not a little bit of one, a plastic screen up. So it really was, hey, go ahead, take a spot, count to 3. That's your photo. Ian McDiarmid nods at you. It was the actual Palpatine looking at me in the eyes instead of the bust, and it was beautiful. It's so charming, so kind, but it really was a very quick interaction. That was my experience. Now, I know actors are different. I think a lot of them, even back then, did not have the plastic screen. I think Ewan McGregor is somebody who seems to say, hey, what's your name? What pose would you like? Obviously, people see on social media the poses. So I think that's the main thing to be aware of is it just depends on the actor, whether it's going to be do you want me to pretend to be cutting your hand off? Or if it's just like, Ian McDiarmid was just like, line up for your graduation photo, and again, nothing against him. That was clearly his choice, So I think is that the kind of information that you think is people were looking for, Ken?
I absolutely think it is. I think it's if it's something you really want, if it's a photo you really want, they can be pricey depending on what the experience is. I think you're right to point out it's different than the autographs where there's maybe a little bit more time to chit chat. But I don't think this is not the day you become friends with Dennis Lawson, right? The day you're going to end up in the pub. And I think there's a reality there. And just know you were very well practiced, Joseph, on what you wanted out of that photo in terms of the actual pose. I think that's valuable insight too. Of you have a second to get it right, most likely. Wow.
Yeah, no, I've taken a lot of photos of at like openings of films where they have like a stormtrooper op or photo opportunity, or when I've been posing with Vader or Kylo Ren at Disney, where I like to wear a Rebellion or Jedi shirt and open it and then kind of look at the other person out of the corner of my eye, like, am I getting away with something? So I thought, that'd be fun to do with Ian McDiarmid. And I literally did practice in the mirror that morning. How quickly can I hit this pose? Because I think it's going to be one and done. And it indeed was. Yeah. So I think that's a great thing to be aware of as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a wonderful thing you did. And I think for you to say it and for people to hear it, this is your moment, make it count and be ready. And it's a very efficient machine there. So I think that answers the questions. A little service provided from your friends at ForceCenter here for those who consider these opportunities, because they're a big drawing point to the celebration.
They are, and I don't want to sound overly negative. I think it was very, very clear that this is the purpose of the company is to get as many fans through there as possible. But the actual brief interaction with Ian McDermott was warm and kind and amazing, and I'm extremely happy I did it.
Yeah, you have a wonderful photo that came out of that. So there you go. All right. Thank you for that, sir. And we are going to dive into some Star Wars news, and we're going to kind of look back at some stuff that happened over this last week. One particular soundbite from Daisy Ridley. This is Daisy Ridley on Rey from Nowhere. There's two things we're kind of addressing. There's a variety interview kind of roundup of the big interview with Rolling Stone, since none of us have a subscription to Rolling Stone anymore like I did in the 90s. Don't have a digital one now. I wasn't able to read the full interview, the full context. I get it. You got to make some money, but I couldn't get the whole thing. But Variety kind of did a summary of that, but also had their own kind of clip and interview. And Jen, there was some stuff there you may want to talk about. But there has been a lot of Daisy Ridley news blips, but here's the biggest one, at least to me. While speaking with Marlo Stern of Rolling Stone magazine, Daisy Ridley was asked, here's the entire question. How do you feel about The Rise of Skywalker and the way the films ended? Because that film retconned almost all of what transpired in The Last Jedi as far as Rey's parentage and a bunch of other things. The message of The Last Jedi appeared to be that anyone could be extraordinary, but then that message was erased in the final film. So let's start with that question. Jen, some thoughts on this question and anything else you want to touch on?
No, I have thoughts. I'm just going to keep it positive. Okay, no, I'm not. Why do they keep dredging this up? Like, it just feels unnecessary. I feel like, let's move on. We've had these kinds of questions, and it just feels a little clickbaity and puts her in a weird position, puts her castmates in a weird position when they're sitting next to her. Like, you're going to ask her about Star Wars and she's there to promote another movie. So, yeah, I don't like these types of questions. Because they're not really asked in a fun, lighthearted way. You absolutely can be silly. Come on, give me the real scoop. Like that can be kind of fun. You can get a fun, natural reaction, but this definitely feels much more pointed and like trying to stir up some drama so that they can get headlines.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, how do you feel about the Rise of Skywalker and the way the films ended is a fine question.
Right.
To keep it going, and I used to deal with this sometimes in another show where there's sometimes some questions of, Kathleen Kennedy's doing a bad job. Do you agree? Where it's just like, what? That's what? Huh?
What? You said that? I did not say that. You said that.
Yeah. Like, huh? So yeah, that's where I kind of feel this is going. And yeah, we really believe this. Your opinions are opinions. And we know not everyone loves Rise of Skywalker around here. I absolutely adore the film. I understand that. I think I have this opinion treated as fact thing is not just in Star Wars. It's in a lot of spots, and it's become even more of a pet peeve of mine. I remember the first time this kind of popped up, Joseph and you and I were talking off air, and it was something that you had brought up, and I was like, yeah, you're right. There's that's what I'm feeling. You're explaining what I'm feeling. So your thoughts, Joseph, on just this question and what went on around it.
Well, the first thing I want to do is recommend ForceCenter episode 332, entitled "Connections Between the Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker."
Right.
Yeah, Ken and I did an episode on this. Our past episode's going to be hard to find. Maybe we'll do a link to it. ForceCenter episode 332. I understand people having this reaction to the connections between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I understand that people really responded to ideas in The Last Jedi and have the feeling that those ideas were rejected in The Rise of Skywalker. I strongly disagree with that, and I feel like I can provide evidence from the text of the films that says they don't disagree, and there isn't the level of retconning that people feel. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I want to respect people's opinions. So, this interviewer having that opinion about those films, so be it. I agree with you as an interviewer. I've never been this level of interviewer or this kind of interviewer, but, I did my podcast Obsessed for years and years, where I interviewed people. And I think a thing that I learned is to be very careful about spoon feeding someone my opinion and then leaving them no option but to agree with it or disagree with it. And I got to a point where I had to sometimes say like, hey, I really want to ask you this question, but I realize it is coming with my bias. Can I ask you this question and see where you go with it? And people are like,
Mm.
sure. Because I had learned the
Mhm.
hard way when I'd be like, because that whole podcast was about, other people's obsessions. So I'd research them or that, but I wouldn't know them the same way that other people would. So it'd be even something as simple as dogs. And I'd be like, hey, everybody knows this about dogs. And then
Mhm.
somebody'd be like, no, actually, I don't think that about dogs. And I don't think everybody thinks that about dogs. I'd be like, oh, right. I should
Yeah.
be more respectful in the way that I frame it. So I really agree with like, yeah, for me, for my tastes, I don't like questions framed this way where it is something subjective, like the meanings of films framed as fact, and then just saying, how did you feel about this fact that I have decided is a fact, which is actually subjective?
Yeah, well said. And right, you and I aren't doing interviews for Rolling Stone. Jen, you're not, but Jen
Mm-mm.
has wonderful journalistic instincts. Joseph, your obsessed interviews are wonderful. And I'm not just propping ourselves up. My first professional interview was in 1996 with the late David Crosby. I've been doing
Wow.
this for a while too. And I do take great issue with it. I probably drunkenly say this to this reporter at a bar, maybe at Celebration London. I don't know. Just like this is when you're trying to get something out of someone. This is what it is. And you've done that too. Of like, if you're trying to get to somewhere, I want you to comment on this. My question might lead you to that. And sometimes that's malicious. And sometimes it might just be in the spirit of conversation, which this probably, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it was just like, hey, we're talking about this, but that's, how do you feel about the Rise of Skywalker, the way the film's ended? Then comes the answer. Okay, but what about this? That might be it might be a follow up. I think this, and I think it's okay to say I think. You've pointed out just before we're taught growing up. I remember my English teacher saying, never say I think. Just write. It's a fact. Just write it as a fact. It's a stronger voice. And that has permeated it. It permeated a lot of the way we communicate, talk, ask questions, conduct interviews, just function in life. And I think this is why I think I'm getting a little riled up about this question. It's just not fair, Jen. It's just not fair, as you said earlier.
No, and it reminds me, they do this thing on the red carpet where you if you're the host, then you might have a producer who's going to have some questions, or if you're like a part of a department, like when I worked at if they knew that a producer was going out to the red carpet, you have a bunch of other producers in the department saying, "Hey, can you ask about this? Because we're going to be doing a piece on fashion. So can you ask them a fashion question?" So sometimes you're going to get questions that you're going to have to ask. But this to me feels totally different. And this is like not about her fashion choice, or she's not a real housewife commenting on what Nene Leakes did. Like, this is about her job. This is about a writer, a director, Disney, Star Wars, and it just puts her in a really bad situation that could really, it's the pressure put on her professionally. I think this is, and then also upsetting like an entire fan base, right? It just feels like, I don't know, not setting her up for a good situation. And not to say that every reporter has to do that, but I just feel like it's really negative.
It
I
could
don't.
just because number one, I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong that Last Jedi appeared to be that
Yeah.
anyone can be extraordinary. That's not necessarily what was there.
Right.
100% all the way down all the levels. And you're forcing me to say, well, let me, that is wrong. And that starts the answer off just, I don't know, in a bad spot there.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah,
Joseph,
I think for me, yeah, like I always wish I could read the full context. I don't have a Rolling Stone subscription either. I wish I could hear it in audio because that changes the tone of it too. But yeah, I think for my opinion, I would prefer questions like this to have because my interpretation of the film is that it did this. How did you feel about my interpretation? Even that to me is a little bit friendlier than allows the person to politely disagree. And I don't need to go deep on the actual analysis of the film since we've done that other places, but I do just want to mention it quickly because it is one of the things that that I understand why people can tend to look at the Skywalker saga as dynastic, as about one family having power, one family continuing messing up the galaxy and saving it and back and forth. It's called the Skywalker saga, but I think the idea that anyone can be extraordinary is in The Last Jedi, but I also just think it's been the message of Star Wars since Han helped Luke destroy the Death Star, right? Since the Ewoks defeated the Empire, since Jar Jar helped save Naboo, since Bodhi Rook passed on the message, right? If you look at the films, it's never just the quote unquote powerful people. It's never just the Jedi and the senators and the rulers who have power. It's everybody. That's always been a message of Star Wars. And I understand how people can zero in on the difference between Rey from nowhere versus Rey from this horrible place of Palpatine. But it is always frustrating that the other messages in Rise of Skywalker are kind of ignored in that context, that the message that everyone can be extraordinary is perhaps most strongly and emphatically underlined anywhere in the saga.
Yep.
With the arrival of the galaxy's feet. There's more of us. It's not a navy. It's just people. That idea is so strongly, beautifully in Rise of Skywalker that I wish that people who felt strongly about that message could see it and feel it in Rise of Skywalker, because I think it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well said. And we'll move on to, well, I'm glad I wasn't answering the question. I'm glad someone with the grace that Daisy Ridley was, because her answer was nearly presidential in that classic political way that I think did try to acknowledge all opinions. We will get to that too. There are a lot of different opinions, and there were a lot of desires for what people wanted, to have happen to that character's journey. Daisy said this. Well, JJ was the one who was like, she is of no one. So it wasn't just The Last Jedi where that message was. That was the message, excuse me. Ridley said, what was interesting about the last one for me was that you can be a hero and not come from anywhere, or you can be a hero and come from literally the worst person in the universe. You're not your parents, you're not your grandparents, you're not your bloodline, and you're not the generations before you. So I was always like, sure. But it's beyond my pay grade. She added, I say the words, do the thing. I do love the version of you can be anyone you want to be, but I also love the version of where you can rectify wrongs and can't help what you're born into. Thoughts on that answer, Jen?
Beautiful. I mean, if she just came up with that on her own, like, that's amazing. If I would have to prep that answer, because it acknowledges everyone. And that's what you want to do when you're in that position. And she's right. I think that the core of the story is that you are your own person. You make your own choices. Your past does not have to dictate your hero's journey or your future. Ultimately, it comes down to you, and you can choose to try and break that cycle or to break free of your past, right? And so, oh my gosh, yeah, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful answer.
Yeah, I would have just frothed at my mouth and dropped my hot chocolate. What'd you just say to me?
Right.
So glad Daisy had that seat, Joseph.
No, Ken, I want you to become extremely famous. There can be lots of viral videos of you getting real mad at interviews.
I'm just in one of those. It's been a month. It's just, this is where I'm at in life. So yeah. I'm glad I'm not. Glad she's doing it. But anyways, yeah, your thoughts on this? What I think
it's an amazing answer. And to me, I could be wrong. I have to take some leaps. But I feel like this is such a matter of perspective that, people are watching The Last Jedi and they're analyzing and interpreting, and people understandably find power in the you're nowhere, you're nothing, but you still have power. Anyone can have power. That's a beautiful message, and I think it is still there. So I think I understand people really attaching to that, responding to that, and then being thrown by The Rise of Skywalker. For me, it makes perfect emotional sense from Rey's arc. And that's what the actor has to engage with, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not privy to all the conversations that she had with J.J. Abrams from the beginning, with Rian Johnson, back to J.J. Abrams, what made sense to her, what she was playing all along. But she needs to unlock, what does this character care about and why does it upset her? And I think that, to me, makes sense why Daisy Ridley has such a great way of talking about it, perhaps also being asked about it. But I think for me, the key part of Rey's arc has always been wanting belonging and family. And the answer that Kylo picks out of her mind in The Last Jedi is her worst fear, that she has no one, that even her parents didn't care about her. And then we pick up in Rise of Skywalker, where she does have family in the Resistance, in Leia, and she is afraid of losing them, hurting them, failing them. And then she finds out this thing that validates that fear. Oh, I come from a legacy of pain. Maybe I will hurt the people I care about. And as Daisy really is saying so well, the triumph of the film is rejecting any kind of identity being forced on her by an external factor, Palpatine, Kylo, anyone, and she decides who she wants to be. And I think the thing that that I care about a lot in the sequels is that they are about how you reckon with the past. So this beautiful arc dovetails. How does Rey want to reckon with the past? Does she want to just deny it and destroy it like Kylo? Does she want to fear it can never be changed? Does she want to invest all of her meaning and identity in the past? And that end is so beautifully, I want to make peace with the past and move forward. Here's the parts of the past that mean something to me. Here's the parts of them I will move into the future. Here's who I decide to be. And Daisy Ridley had to think through all of that, play all of that, know that that is what the scene is about. And I think that's why she gives such a good answer.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well said. I don't have the number in front of me, but let's also make sure you all out there seek out Joseph's wonderful episode. I believe it was a Star Wars counseling, right, Joseph? Or was it just of Rey's journey through the sequel trilogy? It's also on our YouTube channel too. The audio version is up there. And you get some more detailed thoughts on this, again, from Joseph's opinion and Jen and mine. And I think this answer does acknowledge that. And I will say this, even if that's what you took away from Last Jedi, that's powerful. And I think that should be respected even from us in real life. There's people in my own life I disagree with vehemently about Rise of Skywalker, but I will never aim to take away what they took away from Last Jedi because it applied to their real life. And that's where it gets a little dicey. And it's not just discourse. It's personal connections to the film that we try to be respectful to. But I just love Daisy's answer from top to bottom. I thought it was wonderful, including the fact that, hey, it wasn't just in The Last Jedi. It was in Force Awakens. JJ had put that in there. That was there. And I thought it was, for me, just a continued growth of that journey. And in a way, this is a general, almost dumbed down version of it for me. But it's like, in the end, she gets all the evidence. It's like, I think I'd rather be Rey from nowhere. And I think that's kind of what I'm going to do because I can do that. And then the Skywalker connection comes into that. Again, that's such a simple way to look at it. But I think that's there as well. But I love the answer. It's respectful of those who worked on the films, who poured over the films and put their love into this art, and a great answer to that there. But I do want to go on there to this part of the conversation. It's 2023, check the calendar, and the readings of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker are still being debated and discussed. So where are we currently at with this discourse and discussion? Not the details of it there. Jen, you mentioned it. It's like Last Jedi was 2017. Films are we're still talking about Citizen Kane, right? Like this is what films should do. So in one way I want to celebrate it, Jen, but also just I think we all can feel a little beat down by it, maybe. But that's a leading question for me.
No. No, I am ready to move on from this discussion, and here's why. Because okay, for years, right, we argued who shot first, right, about the original trilogy. We debated, discussed, but there's a difference with that type of questioning. Right. I mean, and even if you were like, oh, George with his changes and things like that, it still had a level of respect and kind of like fun to it. What's happened now is that the discussion has become much more negative, and it's actually pitting directors, Star Wars creators against each other. Rian Johnson sucks. J.J. Abrams terrible. Ugh, fight, right? Like it's just so it's about tearing them down rather than really like, hey, you like that? Why do you like that thing in The Rise of Skywalker? I really like this thing in the Last Jedi. It's just like gotten really divisive. And being a fan means that we're going to have our opinions and there's going to be differences. That's great. But this kind of discourse, I would like to go away.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. You just hit on it for me there. And I guess sometimes I swim around in my own thoughts, sometimes my own rage. That's dark side energy. It's tiring because I don't feel it's a lot of these questions, a lot of these opinions are not playing fair. And again, it goes to this opinion as fact. And I had run into this recently in a green room in a comedy club of someone just, oh, you like Star Wars? Yeah. Disney just doing it for money, right? And I disagree with it, man. Disagree with you. And this person's face just kind of fell as I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not, I know that's what you see on your Facebook page or your Twitter feed, but that's not the truth. And so a lot of this discourse, the reason it's continuing to be exhausting, it's not exhausting. It's not just that it's dampening joy. I just feel it's not intelligent. I just feel it's not full of depth. That nuance word everyone loves to use, which that word itself is getting watered down these days. It's becoming a memeable word, but it's just not playing fair. And what it does, Jen, pitting fans against fans, directors against directors, talent against talent. A lot of faux insiders out there who are just convinced this is the way of it. And I think that's the difference versus like the Han shot first thing is a tired joke. Stormtroopers miss is a tired joke, but it's just something that's always going to be there. It's in the background. So this other stuff, I do want it to change at least, Joseph, maybe the tone and tenor of the conversation.
Yeah, I think time will change things. I do think that there is it sort of solidified into very strong opinions, and sometimes I want to post a photo or a joke or something and attach an image from Rise of Skywalker, and sometimes I skip it because hey, if somebody said something snarky, I could handle it. It's not the end of my life. But like, I don't want that in my day, and I don't want to be able to post something that's for me joyful and then have to hear 3 to 7 J.J. Abrams lens flare mystery box diatribes,
Right.
So I think for me that's a little bit where I am anxious for time to wash us down the shores when it comes to this analysis. The venom will decrease. I think that there's this great thing of looking at the whole history of Star Wars. We mentioned sometimes on this podcast that I'm just a little bit older than both of you, so I had the experience of imagining what Return of the Jedi would be and having more grumbles as a small child because I had time to think, what do I want to happen, right? I think the debate that we're having now is all people who really did a lot of analysis and thoughts between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. People who watched the film with the context of Rian Johnson's interview the opening weekend of The Last Jedi, where he confirmed that, oh, hey, Rey from nowhere to me is the answer. If you just watch the film, you could go, ooh, is Kylo telling them the truth or not? Is he manipulating her? But we had the context of that interview in a million articles about it. When Rise of Skywalker came out, we have the context of a million interviews Chris Terrio gave it. So we're all in this generation that's watching not just the movies, but the baggage of the speculation, the baggage of the interviews, and I am convinced that there's a 10-year-old on a couch watching all 3 movies in a row on an iPad, and they're having a different experience. And as time goes on, that's going to be the experience. That's going to be the primary way these films are remembered. And we are seconds from a wave of, were we too hard on Rise of Skywalker articles right around the corner.
Yeah, and that speaks back to the opinion is a fact on the prequels, where there's just some people I still run into how those sucked. Did they? You think they did? I used to think they do. I engage with them differently, and I don't. So that's a different experience. My opinion, your opinion, but the fact that you're just like, those suck. What gets me riled up is it's this big thing around here with ForceCenter. We talk about perspectives. We talk about when you jumped on the Star Wars train, and it's going to be different for everyone. And why I get so riled up about these kind of questions is you are denying the perspective and experiences of a lot of folks, which is why, again, I'm saying, I don't want to say names. There's some friends of mine on air who were upset emotionally at the Rise of Skywalker decisions with Rey that I get, because I get where they're looking at it from, and I have to, and we're still good friends. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, that's the way you have those kind of conversations versus me pounding them over the head going, no, you can't have that opinion, or you can't have the feelings. But it drives me crazy because this does roll out from Star Wars and film discussion and pop culture discussion to the world, where you hold on to your perspectives and refuse to change. You treat it as fact, and you don't allow for the existence of other folks and other experiences and other emotional connections. And that's the hard thing. We all maybe might find ways in which we're guilty of it, but it's just I want to strive for something a little better. And I do think how I discuss Star Wars is how I want to look at the world. And it's just big but simple for me.
Makes a lot of sense.
But one thing I will say about this, I want to try to do the force-setting of focus on the positive. This conversation around Rey, maybe Rey specifically here, but around any other character or any other Star Wars film, but around Rey, this kind of represents to me a powerful passion for the character, and the idea that we do want more stories about this character, and we want to find how to celebrate this character. And I think that's the thing about Rey that I do love. She did connect with a lot of people. She was a lot of people's heroes. She was a role model. And so what happens to her is going to mean a lot to people. And that is, at the end of the day, what I'm going to try to take away from the continued discourse around the character is she connected with a lot of people. And I think I personally find that powerful. Jen, I don't know. I try not to lead you here. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, you see the character walking around in the Disney parks in Batu, and how young kids are just so excited to see her, walk up to her, potentially play a game with her, right? She just has resonated with so many people, kids of all ages. And it was exciting when I saw Rey first on screen. She was a character that I really related to. I mean, we always talk about when she's, quietly sitting in her area, making the bread. I forget what they call it, the space bread.
Portion bread, yeah.
That's right, the portion bread, right? And just like that, in that moment, right away, we got to know who that character was. That is a testament to Daisy Ridley's acting. And she actually, I'm not sure if it was this interview, but she talked about like her social anxiety and how she actually gets very shy in public places with a lot of people. Like she doesn't like going to parties because she doesn't know how to interact with people. And I just found that really relatable. And I just think that that's why she's doing such a fantastic job with this current press tour, because she is a role model and she does have to be really careful about what she says, because you better believe if she says something wrong, they're going to take that headline and run with it and be like, Rey says this. And so she's a wonderful ambassador for Star Wars. I mean, that's just the name of the game when you join the Star Wars franchise. And I love her. I love Daisy Ridley and I love the character.
Well said. Big part of it indeed. And which is why you mentioned like the Batu thing. When a 10-year-old is at Batu and sees Rey and has some big, wonderful reaction and connection, to me, it's not maybe literal, but to me, if you're now an angry dude in your car going, well, none of that matters because X, Y, and Z about this character, you're taking that away from that 10-year-old. And this was done in 99. This was done. Look at the Jar Jar stuff. Look at Ahmed Best nearly having his life destroyed. Career was destroyed because of this, only to find 20 years later, people going, man, you were mine and you got me. And it shouldn't have to be 20 years. We shouldn't put those barriers up between the arts and those affected by it. And that's one of the reasons I return here week after week, other than to hang out with fine folks. And Joseph, your wonderful insight. So your thoughts on this final part of the discussion?
Yeah, no, I really agree with you that I think anybody can have any opinion you want. If you grew up with the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy isn't for you, that's fine, right? No harm, no foul, right? But when you kind of cross over into it is bad, period, then I do think it's like, hey, go look at some videos of of some people interacting with Rey and just remember how much that matters to those people. I think is a really good perspective. And I think Rey matters to me as a character because she represents this fundamental thing that I think we have a hard time with in society sometimes of an individual can be extremely competent and powerful and still have problems. I think it's a part of what Daisy Ridley brought to the character of there is this poise, this strength, right? She is competent. She doesn't need Finn to take her hand in The Force Awakens. She is naturally powerful in the Force and wields it and masters it quickly. But she's still a vulnerable human being who needs to figure out, who am I? How do I find meaning? How do I find connection? How do I build my identity? And having a character that is both aspirational because they're so confident and powerful and still wrestling with the kind of really human things that we all wrestle with, I think, for our entire lives. That's what makes Rey really powerful to me.
Another ForceCenter well said, 15 today, setting a record here. But, yeah, and I want to be clear too. When you shut down a 10-year-old and say blah, 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 what you're, and it's not for you, you're not finding what's there for you. This is a big lesson of one of the characters in Willow that I just experienced in a series that I enjoyed. I know it wasn't for everyone again, but there was a character who literally comes to that point of, this isn't my tale. That's not why I'm here, which is means that tale has something for you. There's something else for you there that's not around your own interests. And I think that's part of this discussion too. And Ray's just amazing. So stand by that character. All right. There. Good job. We got through it, and I contained my rage. One of the things I still have over and over and over. I just want to give a Mace Windu look, stare at everyone sometimes. Not the way, my friends. Before we get to more news, we are going to take a quick break, but we are going to have our ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should try out on us. And as you said, it helps the show. Joseph, what do we have today?
We are continuing to recommend Path of Deceit, a High Republic adventure by Justina Ireland and Tessa Gratton. We'll be getting to this one, if not soon, eventually.
Eventually could become soon. Fast. All right, download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. All right, quick break. In the side, more news here in Star Wars. Welcome back to ForceCenter. We are taking a look at Star Wars news. We took a swing through the world of Rey and Daisy Ridley, but now we're going to take a swing through the open world of Star Wars video games, at least the kind of game a lot of us have been asking for, dreaming about for years. The open world Star Wars game has got a new key team member. Video Games Chronicle has reported that Ubisoft Massive has hired Bernd Demir, formerly the creative director on Battlefront 2, to join the team developing their previously reported, quote, open world Star Wars game. Now, there's a lot out there on what that game might be. Search for it, find it. This has been in the works for a bit and been asked for, I think, for a very long time. Their statement is crisp and clean. I am honored to join Ubisoft and gain the opportunity to collaborate with talented global teams to shape the future of social experience in Ubisoft's games. They're known to be catalysts for dynamic and diverse communities enabled by innovative features and powerful brands that allow players to come together. I'm excited to partner with the group's teams around the world to bring social experience in our games to new heights. I love that quote as much as I love the Daisy Ridley one, because that's a lesson in how to say everything and not say anything at all. Mm-hmm. So that's a release statement that confirms that there. So thoughts on this hiring there and that comment there, Joseph?
I love the turn of phrase, shape the future of social experience, because I read it and I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what that means. And then I'm like, wait, do I? I'm not sure I do. I mainly take that as that there's some element of interactivity in this game, which, is not surprising given the state of video games and how much people like to get together online and fight things and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And collect mushrooms, right? Is that what you do in Fortnite, Ken? Do you collect mushrooms?
Yeah, you can. There's force field mushrooms. Yeah, absolutely. You need those, though. You're often desperate if that's what you're relying on, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this is a great statement. I'm not familiar with Bernd Demir unless he's the person. I didn't have time to deeply research this one, so I apologize. I loved the Battlefront 2 video game and the people who kept working on it and communicating about it. So I'm just happy that somebody from that team is on this game.
I very much agree with that. Big fan of Battlefront 2, not just the story mode. I love the look and the feel and the presentation of the game there. So, Jen, you've dealt with a lot of statements in your day from your journalistic past there. What do you think about this statement? Is it the type of thing where you nod, like Justin said, you nod and go, yeah, and then you walk away and you go, what?
That's exactly it. And I just assume because it's about gaming that I'm like, I don't understand this or I can't find any information from this statement because I'm not a gamer anymore. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe the gaming community could educate me on what this all means. Or, I mean, part of the problem is I don't really even know. I don't really know too much about Ubisoft or this gentleman, Bernd Demir. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I'll let the experts weigh in on this.
Jennifer, if somebody said to you, I want to help you shape the future of your social experience, how would you react?
That's exactly it. To me, that statement feels very like the metaverse, and we're going to have VR headsets and blah, 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 right? That's kind of what it feels like. But I don't think that's where they're going. I don't think. I mean, who knows, right? But
Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah.
To your question, Joseph, if someone had said that to me, I'd be like, "What'd you say to me?"
You drop your hot chocolate. Is that what you said?
Drop my hot chocolate. What'd you say to me? No, Jed. I think. I know. Yeah, you're not playing a lot of games right now, but I love you discussing this because it's like this. I want to know what game can bring you back in. I think this could be the game that does it. This could be the game that does it.
This could be the game. Yeah.
Could be the game. Star Wars Jedi Survivor rightfully has the spotlight these days. We're inching closer to that release, but lurking in the background is this game. This has been floated around, whether or not it's this game or the idea of open world Star Wars, which means a lot of things. For me, when I hear that, I think of, is it like Red Dead Redemption 2? Can I go play poker for hours in a bar in a fake city? Or is it something else? Mass Effect comes to mind, was the first one that I felt, oh my gosh, I'd love to play a Star Wars version of this. And Fallen Order had that kind of vibe. I felt it was a little bit on a controlled Disney ride track, but that's not a Disney joke, by the way, about Disney Star Wars folks. But yeah, this is exciting. So what do we look for? Or what do we hope for in a game like this, Joseph? Open world. What does that mean to you? Will you dive back into gaming, which I know is something you have to be mindful of, like I do?
Yeah, no, I thought I was kind of out for gaming, which is hard because, like, growing up and in my 20s and even in my early 30s, like that was one of my nouns. I'm a gamer. I know what's going on. And then I had to step back because I was spending too much time, and it was eating into my social life and career in not a good way. So I took a big step back, and then it's like, oh yeah, Battlefront 2. Okay, I'll buy a PlayStation 4. Okay, I'll buy the online thing. Okay, I'm losing some time. So I loved the interactive of that so much. It's so fun. So there's a part of me is like, yeah, of course I want to get back and find a way to moderate my time. If I could get into something like this, an open world game, I think what I like in those is just feeling like you can disappear into another world, that you're truly immersed in it. I love the first Red Dead Redemption. I love a lot of Zelda games where you can go on a mission and you can go into this area and the Gorons are having a hard time and they can't eat their food, and then you go to the temple and now their area is nice, and now you can come back and visit the Gorons anytime and do some sledding with them and all that kind of thing. I think that's what I like, is if in a game like this, if I want to, there's a clear mission narrative and I can bang, 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 do the story. And then if I have like, hey, this game has Fort Ipso in it and I can go and play Sabacc anytime I want, and the droid fighting ring is in the background and I just want to sit there for 3 hours. Those are those two different experiences that I want out of a game like this.
Man, now I'm addicted to a game that isn't even real yet.
Exactly.
What you're talking about there. Yeah, you're right there with me on that stuff, Joseph, where it isn't just that I can go anywhere. It's that I feel as though I have free reign to almost do nothing in the game. When I get that itch to I talk about Red Dead Redemption a lot because the story is still, I think, my favorite movie of all time. It's just amazing. But I'm not, this isn't a joke. Sometimes I just go back to walk around or ride around on my horse in the rain in that game because it relaxed me. I just feel like I'm in the world. And that's sometimes the danger of the games, because you can be really in the world. Read my MLB The Show obsession, where I'm negotiating contracts with video game left fielders, and I take too much time on that. But I think in Star Wars, that's what I'd love. That's why I talk about, I'd love a pod racing franchise mode, because I'd love to just be in the world and not feel as though I have to keep rushing forward to engage with the next part of the story, which is fun in itself, of course. But that's what I think I haven't experienced quite yet for myself in Star Wars, and this game brings that kind of hope. So, Jen, if you could just go hang out with Chirpa at Bright Tree Village for a day,
I would do it. My husband actually has been playing Legend of Zelda I think Breath of the Wild. And he does it because we were playing Among Us, and that just was really stressful at night when you want to wind down. So he switched to Legend of Zelda, and it's really relaxing because, like you guys are saying, like you are able to complete missions, but you also can just explore and kind of hang out and do your own thing. It feels very vast. It feels like you're immersed in this world. So I love that. Now they compared this new Star Wars game to No Man's Sky. I've never seen No Man's Sky, but I did a little bit of research, and it says that No Man's Sky has a relaxed mode where it's more about exploring and less about surviving, and that to me is key. That's what's going to bring me back in, because with Jedi Fallen Order, I was too scared, and I just knew I was going to get my butt kicked, and that's not enjoyable for me. Like that's why I like Red Dead Redemption, because like you're saying, Ken, you can just go out on your horse, you can play poker, you can just, it's all more about the vibe and exploring the world. And that at this stage in my life, I want the vibe. I just want to chillax and not have to worry about getting killed in the video game.
Yeah, or as Grace yelled at me one day as she saw me playing Red Dead Redemption, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm taking a bath. you got to take baths in this game. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, what am I looking at here? Final question, though. This is, we have, all three of us have long experiences. We're veterans at Star Wars video games, going back to, I don't know, maybe the Atari or going to the arcade and dropping quarters in that Star Wars game. What do we look for in any Star Wars video game experience? They all can't be the super immersive kind. Sometimes they're different vibes, different approaches, and they need to be. We need to have different styles of games. But John, what makes you drop your quarters in the machine?
Yeah. Well, when I was playing Shadows of the Empire on Nintendo 64, that was my game. Oh man, I played so many hours. Now I really do like being able to see things that are familiar in Star Wars, going to familiar places, playing with obviously characters. The first one, I mean, the one that I've been playing with my daughter is the Star Wars Lego Worlds, but it's the older one, not the newer one. We haven't done that. It's kind of challenging and kind of frustrating, but it is cool to be able to be Chewie or Rey, and being on Jakku and having BB-8 try and complete tasks. That's just really fun, and it's a fun way for her to get to know Star Wars. So yeah, I don't really know about the specific experience. I guess just the familiarity of these stories that we love.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So you mentioned like the most recent Lego Skywalker Saga game.
Yeah,
I finished it, completed it. I had fun. The Lego games don't capture my attention as much as maybe they used to. That's just my preference. But my favorite thing was, and we even joked about it on the show, was like I think I was walking around Padme's apartment with like Grief Karga and another character. I forget who I was playing with, but it was just like so bizarre, but it was so wonderful. Not canon. I was not immersed because I was like, this is so silly, but it was just celebrating my love for Star Wars. That's the energy I think I want of all Star Wars games, where I'm sitting down playing, and even whether it's Battlefront and I'm rebooting as a battle droid 10 times because I keep getting eliminated in a match, but I'm just still having fun being a Star Wars fan is how I approach it. Joseph, your thoughts on what you're looking for in a Star Wars video game experience?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just being immersed in the world. And like, I remember playing some of the, not even Super Nintendo, the Nintendo NES Star Wars games. Like, I think the first Star Wars one, they've got like weird bubble heads, and like, I didn't care. This is a way to spend time in Star Wars. And I think that has never gone away. Playing the heroes versus villains mode on Battlefront 2, when I was really into it, someday I would play hours of cycles just so I could have a fight in Bespin and end up in Bespin again, because I just wanted to be in Bespin. So, I mean, a new game like this that could have places that haven't been in video game reality yet, like Fort Ipso or Navarro or Ferrix, that's really exciting to me, to be able to spend time in places. I like mechanics, especially if it's anything to do with Force, which I don't know what the rumors are about this one. I want to feel competent and cool, I like a challenge, but at the same time, I'm playing video games for escapism. Just getting through life day to day, opening doors and paying taxes. Those are challenges for me. So when I play a video game, I want to feel cool and competent. So I want mechanics that make me feel like I can do things I can't do in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the final thing for me is being sent on missions that I care about, right? And it's all about the storytelling. Like, even in Battlefront 2, when I'm just playing like defend this spot missions, when I play as clones defending Camino, I was even more into it because, like, yeah, that's our home. I want to defend it. So I love any mission where I really, really care about it from the narrative perspective, the character perspective.
I love that Camino map. It's one of my favorites there. Well said. Yeah, no, you've just got me excited for, again, I have to be careful. Like just the idea of walking into Fort Ipso, playing some sabacc, hanging out at the bar, watching, maybe trying to stop a droid fight. Come on.
Oh,
Too good.
amazing.
Too good. We'll keep you updated on this game, of course. I've had like maybe one eye kind of sort of on this story. For me, video games take so long to develop, and sometimes, as we've seen with Star Wars, they veer off the path and don't end up getting completed. So I'll just kind of wait to more emerges, but exciting news nonetheless there. We're not done yet. We're going to take a look at this week in Star Wars history, looking ahead to Star Wars past. And for us, all the way to Sunday, February 5th, 2013, Lucasfilm, still just months into the new era, announces that the new standalone films are in development and that they will expand the mythos and depths of the Star Wars universe in previously unexplored ways. We now know that this became Rogue One and Solo. Both films have their fans, both films have their critics, and the end result was that these types of movies are no longer in development or became Disney Plus projects. So 10 years on, wow, that's crazy. 10 years on, what do we think of the attempt by Lucasfilm to tell these type of stories, Joseph?
Yeah, I think it's great that they did, and I think it'll always be one of these sort of fascinating, half-finished experiments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, the idea always was, hey, this is a huge open story. It can be anything. It doesn't have to just be the Skywalker saga. What stories do we want to tell? And both of the stories that do get released end up being a little bit more tied in. They feel big. They feel essential, right? Rogue One feels utterly essential to the story of the rebellion. It ties directly into A New Hope. We were announced. You can imagine a version of Rogue One that's like, it is just about the team who sells it, and at the end they hand it to Mon Mothma, and that's the only classic character we ever see, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you end up with a film with Vader and Tarkin and Leia, and so directly tied into A New Hope. And then the same thing with Solo. A Solo movie could have been, here's an adventure he had, and it really would have been standalone. But they went deep, and they tried to really show us who this character is and what sets him on the path that he's on, but the essential truth of the character. So both these films that were kind of like, yeah, they're going to stand alone, explore these other depths, they end up feeling very essential. And I feel like if they had continued, we might have got even more into like, here's just a one-off about a Jedi, or here's just a horror movie, right? So they'll always feel like, to me, like an experiment that started with phase one and then stopped.
Yeah. Actually, I really agree with that. It's a really good look at it. I think I'm trying to take myself back to this time when it was announced. I think I would have immediately been like, oh, great, an Obi-Wan movie. So I think that's probably what I even said. I was working my old job. I probably said it to the barista at Starbucks. I did a Han Solo movie. So we got that. But yeah, the promise of, hey, we can go anywhere, not quite fulfilled. And some would say maybe not quite fulfilled even on Disney Plus, maybe more in the High Republic and more of that to come. So a great way to look at it there. Jen, 10 years ago, what do you think about all this stuff? What do we think 10 years later?
I think it was the right idea. I think it ended up being terrible timing just for the state of the industry. I mean, you think about what Solo came out. When did Solo come out?
2018.
2018, right? That was it. That was basically right before the pandemic, right before streaming really started taking off for all, all these competitors started putting their movies online, and that would be the change of the industry. And so now I can't imagine getting a standalone film in theaters, and we can talk about that later, but like I loved the idea because for getting a closer look, learning more about a specific character, getting their backstory like we got with Han Solo, Rogue One was fantastic. That's how we got freaking Andor, right? So there was a lot to love about it, but unfortunately now it's just the business has changed, and we'll have to see what happens in the next 10 years.
Yeah, you're touching on the last big thing I want to talk about is the timing of it. I do think it's unfortunate that the Solo budget and what it made and the director snafu, all that kind of stuff kind of dominated the headlines, and maybe understandably, gave pause for Disney and Lucasfilm execs going forward with this program, so to speak, as it was just as said, phase one. But also, again, this is one of those, I'm totally just guessing here, but it's like, all right, you have the problems with Solo, you have the stuff going on around it. We like the film, it didn't necessarily work in some ways, blah blah blah. But in the back of your head, you're like, but we do have that streaming service, so maybe we got to pivot. And I understand why. If streaming didn't exist, Disney Plus didn't exist, I think they would have stayed on the horse. They might have given the horse a new paint job, maybe take it back in the barn, put some new shoes on it, come back out with something different. But we would have got Kenobi standalone. We would have got the Jedi off doing something in another time period. I think that would have continued, given a different set of circumstances, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really agree with that. I think there's so many things happening. The stumble at the box office with Solo happening at the exact same time that the Disney Plus machine needs feeding immediately. I think it's also really interesting that this came at a time when storytelling in general and franchises in particular were moving away from one-off adventures, right? If Lucas had said, you know what, I'm making the prequels and one-off adventures, late 90s, early 2000s, that would have still been a more standard thing of like, yeah, of course there's just a rando Lando movie where he just has an adventure. But, I think we might be swinging a little bit back towards some people wanting standalone adventures, but even not as long ago as 2016, 2018, when these films are coming out, there's such a push and pull to it should all be connected. It should all be building to something. So I think that just storytelling taste for the public was also a weird timing thing for these films.
Yeah. A lot of factors in, a lot of meetings we weren't part of, but we're left with. But I'll tell you what we're left with. 2 fun films that I absolutely adore for different reasons and the same reason. They're Star Wars, and I love them. So that happened February 5th, 2013. We are almost out of here. But before we leave, we're going to let you know where you can find us. We're on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod, Hive Social at ForceCenter, Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're on Instagram and YouTube, as we mentioned. Subscribe over there. Figure Fights coming February 2nd. We got some YouTube shorts going to be dropping soon, reviewing figures and more. Who knows what will happen over there, including some essays and some ruminations over there. So follow us over there. Podcast available on Acast, iHeartRadio, and a lot of other places. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. Get a TeePublic ForceCenter shirt and then wear it with your photo with Dennis Lawson. All right. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly from there. You get into our Discord, and you can follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, KenNapzok.com. You can find information on other things I do, including my new podcast, The Blathering, which is why I might be in a little bit more drop my hot chocolate, say, what did you say to me kind of mood. It's a different kind of show over there that I've done. So check it out if you want. Jen, where can they find and follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jennifer Landa, YouTube at Jennifer Landa, where I've been sharing some movie reviews. One movie review. I have more on the way. Some of my Star Wars Micro Machine collections. And also TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138, where I'm all about that Star Wars vibe and trends, apparently.
There you go. Joseph, you're always working a lot of wonderful things. Where can they find all those wonderful things?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media, Instagram in particular. I'd love to have some more friends over on Instagram, but I'm also on Twitter, Hive. I think I'm on Mastodon, all at Joseph Scrimshaw. Also on TikTok, I'll be getting some more sharing of action figures and adult collectibles going over on TikTok. And you can, of course, find me on YouTube as well. I have a new short film coming to YouTube in the next couple weeks.
There you go, my friends. All right, that is it. That's it for this week. So for Daisy Ridley, Ray, and all the opinions in Star Wars, we'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.